Welcome to Yes and Land, where we say yes to the reality of yesterday and today, and we say and to the possibility, growth, and imagination of tomorrow. Today, super excited because we have Mayor Lorin Palmer joining us. He is the mayor of Herriman, which is, I think it's the fastest growing city in Utah. If not the, it's one of the fastest growing cities in Utah, right?
It has been, yes.
Yeah, it is just absolutely booming. You have so much going on there. A great city. And we're very excited for him to join us today. And we're going to be talking about a number of different things. We're going to talk about leadership and building relationships and the importance of building those relationships and collaboration. And we're also going to look at that through the lens of Lion King, right? And talking specifically about Mufasa in Lion King and the kind of leader he was and what we can learn from both him and also from Mayor Palmer. So very excited for the conversation today.
It's going to be fun.
So as we kind of get kicked off, what I'd love to do is kind of talk about kind of your backstory. What got you to where you are now? Because as I understand it, being in politics was not necessarily the plan. That was something that kind of happened as some different adventures and experiences unfolded in your life. But let's roll it all the way back, right? Okay. Let's roll it back to when you're, from Price, a city that we love and hold dear here, as my law partner is from Price, and we know loads of people from Price. So you grew up there, and when do you eventually leave Price, and what was that like?
So I was there through my mission.
Okay.
Right, served an LDS mission.
And where'd you serve?
In Uruguay, South America.
Okay, Uruguay. So you speak Spanish.
Yep, I kept up on that Spanish.
Which I'll bet is a little bit of an asset as a mayor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Use it daily, probably still.
Really?
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Amazing.
Yep.
Okay.
Been a blessing. And then served that mission, came home, did the typical, got married pretty quick after. And then, we were just talking out in the hall, right? Which it was really not a lot of opportunity there, unfortunately. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish there would have been, right? Yeah. But there just wasn't at the time. And then so we left, got married, left, came up here, went to school. Actually didn't have any plans when we moved up here. Just tried to find a job, didn't know much about schooling options. I just didn't. My parents didn't love my parents, but they didn't know how to guide me through the college experience even.
Sure.
So came up here, was working, and my friend in my neighborhood put me onto this job at a company called Evco House of Hose and said, hey, you got to come work here. It's this industrial space, but they'll put you, they'll pay for your schooling. So I thought,
amazing.
Well, absolutely. I'll hop on. That'll be, do something. So I'd always wanted to do pre-med, maybe do physical therapy, but they said, well, all we pay for is business. I said, well, I guess I'm going to be a business major.
Business
so
major
here we go. So I don't even know if I ever used that because I just stayed with that company for several years, even after finishing.
Where did you go to school?
UVU.
UVSC at the time, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, now UVU. It's so weird for me because I always am going to think of it as UVSC. It kind of rolled off the tongue. And so when I hear UVU, it always kind of takes me like a split second, like, oh, okay, that's the same place.
Same place.
Got it.
Yes.
So you're a business major there.
Business major.
Was it like business administration? Was it?
Just general business management.
Just general business? Okay.
Yeah. And again, but I stayed there for a while, and I was doing management stuff within. They moved me to St. George to open up a new branch of that. When I was 27, I was pretty young, moved down there. But it wasn't like management. I didn't love it, right? It wasn't I didn't love managing the people. I just wasn't too close to people. I became a friend more than a manager. It was tricky, right?
Sure, it is.
But then I landed on the sales side. They gave me a shot over on the sales side. And that's when I found my passion, was sales and relationships. Yeah. And that's just took off from there. And that became the rest of my career until I went through a divorce. Yeah. And we talked to, as you know, went through a divorce. And then.
And you had some kids with your ex,
yep.
right?
We had four. We had four.
Yeah.
Two boys and then twins that are boy girl. So they happened pretty fast. I think plans were three, but then when the third one is a twin, then you have four.
Yep, you have four. It is what it is.
But it was amazing. Kids are all grown, married now, all doing their thing.
Let me. As a divorce attorney, I won't get into any details. We don't want to force you to go anything down that path. But I have a couple of questions there, which is like you're going through this and your kids are doing amazing. So y'all must have done something right in co-parenting. And so walk me through like the emotions after you get divorced, and then what you did to find a really healthy co-parenting relationship.
Absolutely. So initially I'll give all the credit to my ex-wife. She was just, because I struggled. I went through a major depression because at the same time started through my divorce, I actually left the host company for a while and went and started another company with a friend. But it wasn't busy. I wasn't, couldn't keep my mind off of things all the time. I was doing a lot of weekend work with this other company, which was when you're doing the weekend warrior thing as a dad, it wasn't working. So I was honestly in a dark place at one point where I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I was up all night worried about where I was failing. And then I was so tired I couldn't get up in the morning. So I had a business partner that was patient with me as well. But really it was my ex-wife just understanding this was about the kids. It wasn't about her and I. Again, there was never anything awful there at all, right? But I wasn't a very good, I tell everybody I was not a good dad for a while because I was absent, I was stressed, I was depressed. And then, it just clicked one day. I just, started doing some therapy, started doing some other stuff, and finally was able to turn it around and then met my current wife, who actually did a lot to kind of pull me across the finish line. I told her that she kind of helped pull me across the finish line. And then she was very willing to be involved with the kids. Yeah. And that helped. It's just not easy to be a step parent.
Being a step parent, I tell my wife, because I have some kids with an ex as well, and she's a step parent to my two boys. A step parent is a thankless job. It's really hard because you can do all the right things, and yet you're not the biological parent, and you might always still have that kind of stigma from the kids who just don't appreciate the step parent, even if they're doing a lot for the kids. And so being a step parent is really hard.
Yeah. Like you said, thankless almost sometimes. And so, but still hats off to her. So I've had two very, selfless women in my life, honestly. My ex-wife and now my current wife who's been good. And then it's interesting. My ex-wife had with her she remarried within a couple of years, and they had their oldest one they had together actually was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh, goodness.
And when he was diagnosed with leukemia, the four older ones were elementary school, so they were busy, and they had to spend a lot of time at primary children's for treatment. Yeah. And then she was pregnant again with their second. He was 20 months old when he was diagnosed. But then we had to step in and really it became this one big, as they were going through their trial with their son with leukemia, we all had to kind of come together, and it became this big, that's where we realized it took a village really to make that happen. And so really that brought everybody together. It doesn't mean we're all best friends still. We're very different paths, I guess, a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's been about the kids, and that's just been the focus. And again, we stayed close to each other. As soon as the youngest graduated, she took off to Santa Quinn. So we had to stay close. We both kind of agreed to stay close, and both at times toyed with ideas of moving out, but we knew that wasn't going to be best for the kids. Sure. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is a testament to a number of things that we try to coach and educate people on, which is, when you get divorced, obviously people see it as breaking up a family. But what I think, talking with some marriage and family therapists and look at the research, I think it's sometimes healthy to look at it in a way that's like, well, this is a different family, right? It's different because you still have these kids in common. And so because of that, like for these kids, it's still their family. Might live in different homes, might look a little different, might end up being blended families and such, but it still is. And when that can function in a healthier way, then you see things like that. I mean, honestly, I think it took a lot from both you and your ex-wife and from your current wife in humility. I mean, one of the things I just heard from you now, which is you're giving credit to other people, which is a really good sign, because it certainly took a lot of work for you to get to where you needed to be, but recognizing the contributions of others and being really humble about it, I think is actually a really healthy thing, because then you're recognizing like it functions better if we have humility, if we have kindness, that, I think people could really learn from when they're going through a divorce, when they're dealing with an ex. And sometimes it's a little bit hard, but keeping that in mind can be really healthy. And I also think it's a good sign for people to like, there's light on the other side, that even if you're going through something really hard and you go through a dark time, that you'll be able to pull through. And it's going to take relying on some other people at times, even maybe unconventional people. But that you can, we talk about it where we say we try to help people navigate people through the heartbreak of divorce to a better, brighter future. So, we're trying to give them hope for the future, but it means this, we recognize it's heartbreak. Right. It's hard. It's dark. but we want people to hopefully be able to build for something in the future, and you certainly have done that, and I think it's very helpful for people to hear kind of that path. So you're doing sales and you're killing it. You're finding like this is something that you're really enjoying.
Right.
Tell me about the pathway professionally for when you're doing that, and then kind of what your wife is doing, and then kind of where you go from there.
Absolutely. So right out of the gate, as soon as we were married, 6 months in, with my current wife, she loses her job, and we're kind of when you're paying child support and she loses her job. I was still kind of ramping up I'd gone back into the sales space, but definitely child support is expensive.
It is.
I'm not complaining, right? But
Yeah.
it is, you almost have to have two incomes or one very good income to make it work. And so she loses her job right away, but then luckily lands at a new company pretty quick and was there for years and was kind of climbing her way through. She had put her way through, she had been single for a while, right? So she had put herself through school and everything and got her master's degree in finance. And so she's working her way up her career ladder. And then I'm doing by the time, about 8 years in, I was doing a national sales role. I was traveling all over the country, leaving every Monday, coming back every Thursday or Friday. And it worked because, she was busy with her job, the kids, we saw them on the weekend, so it worked for us. But then we get pregnant. And we have that discussion. Where do we do? Where do we go? We actually tried. I did quit my job, my sales job. It was hard. Yeah. But we were going to take a shift just to a more local job. But we even eventually had that conversation of, she was making more than I was. And it wasn't the traditional roles we wanted to fill. She didn't really want to be the stay-at-home mom. It just wasn't her. And that's okay. I didn't expect that. Was not any disappointment there. We thought we'd do the nanny, try the nanny, try daycare. So I did. I actually, none of that worked out. So I ended up becoming a stay-at-home dad, which was weird. That's I could go into the mental challenges that was as well, because I was in a good space with my career. I was progressing. I was this national sales manager. I was an expert in my field, and I had goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, and then become a stay-at-home dad. And that's not. I lost my network. You gave up I gave up everybody I knew. Suddenly they weren't friends, right? They were acquaintances that you worked with, right? But that network's gone, right? And then, but I did it, and absolutely would never. Now looking back, I would never trade that for anything. Yeah.
What was that like emotionally though, when you do that? Where suddenly you leave there, you become a stay-at-home dad, all your acquaintances, your network, all those connections, suddenly you don't have those anymore on a daily basis. Emotionally, kind of what are you processing through at that time?
Oh my word, so many things. Again, there was probably a little bit of depression that came in again, crept back in a little bit. It was hard. It was hard to get motivated some days. Sure. Hard to, even though I remember my wife coming home from work and I just felt like I hadn't got anything done, right? And she was just glad we were alive, right? Like kind of in a way that we would survive the day, right? Sure. But so it was interesting because it was hard, but rewarding. It was this weird thing. I remember trying to set goals of, different room to clean in the house, because I was trying to take on those roles too, that stay-at-home mom type thing too, that we talk about, the laundry, the cleaning, and it just, even that, I couldn't create because there was no, I don't know, there was no certain process, there was no routine I could create with the newborn, right? And so, I don't know, it was just weird, a few years. It was a weird few years, and ended up trying to reach out to the community. That's when I started I might do this weekly lunch now. Everybody thinks it's my lunch to meet with the mayor. This started actually because I needed adult interaction as a stay-at-home dad. Okay. That's how I reached out to the community and said, hey, I need adult interaction. Anybody else in this situation? And turned out there were a lot of people in the community that were needing that once a week space.
Yeah, I actually think that's really smart. I mean, again, maybe it's the non-traditional role, especially for Utah, but I think it's really helpful to think about that, when somebody decides to, take on that role of providing that full-time care for children, that you still need to have adult interaction. You still need to have a bit of that, and being deliberate about saying, hey, I'm going to do a weekly lunch. I think that's important. I think more people could look at that and consider things like that. I think that's really helpful. It's smart.
Yeah. I tried to do there were some mom and me groups, right? And it just didn't fit, right?
Sure.
It was, I don't know, sometimes it felt inappropriate sometimes to hang out with these other moms and their kids, right? Yeah. But again, nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't feel at home there, right? So it was this, I got sick of waiting for that space to come to me, so I tried to create that space, I guess.
Well, and it's smart. I mean, we talk about a lot of times where there's some core human needs, and one of those is the need to have a sense of belonging. And when you had that sense of belonging in the career that you were building and all these goals you had, and then suddenly that's not there, you're starting to lose that. So being deliberate and saying, I need to have that sense of belonging, so I'm going to reach out. I'm not going to wait for it to come to me. I'm going to be proactive. Is again something that I think more people could take the advice of. Like if you're having that disconnection that you feel in your life, if you're having like, man, I'm just kind of in this grind and I'm not connecting with people and I don't feel like I belong, we'll be proactive. Look for those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? Have those relationships, right?
Yeah.
That's part of what we're talking about today, right? Like build those relationships. Those relationships are huge.
Absolutely.
So you start doing that. You start doing those lunches. You're doing the stay home dad thing. How in the world do you end up running for mayor?
Right. Well, then we go back, like, again, I truly, everybody laughs when I say this, I hated politics.
Yeah.
I like them a little bit more today.
Sure.
Still not, because I think I turned out to be okay with this.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't like politics. I didn't want to be in politics, but I'd been involved in the community a little bit. We had done, as a resident group, we had created a resident group concerned about some growth patterns in Herriman. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I look back, I don't know that we understood everything that was happening out there, but we got involved.
Yeah.
And then when the mayor thing opened up, we knew the mayor, I won't get into why, but everybody knew there was going to be an open seat for the mayor role. And it wasn't even a thought, but my wife and I sat down. Cohen was, my little guy was getting ready to go into kindergarten.
Okay.
And we had this discussion about, do I go back to school? Because I'd always thought about maybe I go get an MBA.
Sure.
'Cause I just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
Do I go back to school, get an MBA? Do I just go back to the sales space I was doing? But that would require probably, sometimes in sales you have to travel to be gone a lot to make the money. And so my wife, I remember sitting me down and said, she's financially, because by then she was doing pretty well financially. She could provide at that point. And she said, why don't you just find a way to make a difference? And that's when it just hit. Like, I don't have to follow a traditional path. Again, what can we do? And then a couple months later, I started getting those whispers from the community about like, hey, this mayor thing's going to be open. Why don't you take a look at it? I looked into it. It's more about, it's a nonpartisan race, so I like that.
Yeah.
It's more about community service. I tell everybody, if you have not everybody has the LDS background, but I told everybody it feels like being an elders quorum president for a city, right?
Sure.
It's just because I felt like I could look out for all the well-being of the community, the temporal well-being, the physical well-being, and then the emotional too, of bringing people together. And so that's what I felt the role I could serve in that, and that's how I ran as for mayor, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and that you saying that reminds me of something that I wrote down, which was some quotes from Lion King, because that's what we're talking about today, right?
Absolutely.
And when Mufasa is teaching Simba, and you probably had this in mind as well, but Mufasa says, "Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom." Young Simba says, "Wow." Mufasa says, "A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as a new king." Young Simba says, "And this will all be mine?" Mufasa says, "Everything." Young Simba says, "Everything the light touches." And so, when we think about when you're saying is like, there's ways that like the light touches so many different aspects of Herriman, right? Mm-hmm. The community that you're in. And that's kind of I think, a responsibility and a stewardship that you take on when you take on that role, right? Like, hey, there's a lot of responsibility with this.
Right.
Yeah. What for you, when you kind of think about that, you think about Mufasa teaching kind of as a leader of his son, what do you think he was trying to teach? And how do you think that maybe Simba wasn't understanding that at that young stage of his life?
Right. Absolutely. And I look back, it's, a lot of politicians sit in an office and don't, connect with their community. And I looked at our community as a whole, and I watched, it wasn't about the roads. It wasn't about the water lines. I mean, all that stuff is what we do, right? It wasn't about that. But I watched as a community, we were growing so fast. Like we talked about that at the beginning. I've been in Herriman now almost 13, 14 years, and it wasn't 25,000 people when we moved out there, right? And now we're knocking on the door of 65, 70,000 in Herriman. But everybody that moved out there seems to want this small town feel. Mm-hmm. That's still the pushback we get. We came out here for the small town feel. We all did. But then we're getting so big. So as we look out, I just want to, my goal is to try to keep everybody with that feeling, right? This is not my community. It's everybody in the community. I want everybody involved. I want people understanding that this is their community. They can have a part in molding the community. And I think some people don't understand that they can play a role in shaping our community. It's not me, right? I really believe it's not the city council or the mayor that affects the groups that step up, the volunteer organizations that step up. They're the ones that are impacting our community absolutely more than anything. If I play a small role in bringing those people out of the woodworks to get involved, I'll be thrilled with that. Yeah. But I think some people don't understand still that they can be involved in a city, in a community, and don't wait around for somebody else to do it. And
well, I think that's what's informative and educational about this idea of kind of, Mufasa is obviously teaching about like this animal kingdom that they're, going to be the rulers over. But in reality, I think what Mufasa is teaching him is exactly what you're saying. Like, hey, we play a small role in this. In fact, you talked earlier with Simba about the circle of life, where the role that he's playing, like maybe he's the king, maybe he's the leader, and I think Simba's taking that like, I'm gonna be the ruler. I'm gonna tell everybody what to do. Mufasa's like, that's not the charge here. You have a responsibility, but it's got to be the role that everybody's playing here. And that you're just trying to help that circle of life work and work effectively so that people can work together, which is like the opposite of what Scar was doing, right?
Yep.
Scar wanted to rule. Like I think Simba was thinking, like, heavy hand, you do what I say, I'm going to dictate everything. When in reality, it's much more about what you're talking about. Helping people find their voice, helping people find what they can do and inspiring them to step up. Because you do play a role in that, right? I think people look to a mayor and there's a certain level when somebody knows that person's the mayor of like, okay, that person's the mayor. Like maybe I should, listen to what they're saying, or hey, he's saying I could be involved. Maybe I can be involved. Maybe there is something more that I can do with
Absolutely.
that. But I think it's really, really inspiring. And when we have leaders, which I think we need more of, that are willing to say like to be humble and say, I'm just playing a small role here. But I need the community to be involved, and I'm just trying to like play a role in helping the community do it.
Right.
Which I think is huge. What is the role for you of building these relationships that you learned through your career of being in sales and building out your network? What role has that played in allowing you to be an effective leader?
Well, I think the word you said in there was relationships. It's 100% been about relationships, not just within the community, but outside the community, with neighboring communities, with business partners, there's this whole network of people that we have to bring together that play a role in our communities. And that's where my strength is. Honestly, I hate even but that's my strength, is bringing people together. It's relationships, it's collaboration, it's understanding I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. There's no training how to be a mayor. You don't go to school.
Sure.
There's no mayoral school, Sure, you can study political science, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. So for me, it's just relationships and trying to bring people together in different roles in every aspect I can. I try to be out in the community as much as possible to be seen. It's not about me. It's not, right? I don't go to the store and hope people recognize me. I don't. I like to go to the store and kind of be incognito, right? Sure. I just want to go to the store and be a regular guy sometimes, right? Yeah. But it's just that it's 100% about relationships and using those to bring people together and for the better.
Yeah. So when we talk about those relationships, the importance of them, I mean, what do you feel like are the key ways in which people can effectively build those relationships? Like, what's the difference? What's the difference between someone who, is that classic networker that kind of like makes your skin crawl a little bit, you know what kind of I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas other people where you're like, oh man, this person's just so great. Like, what's the difference?
For me, I had somebody tell me during this last campaign, I had never heard this before, but somebody else reached out during the campaign just last year and basically sent me a text, and it was an endorsement. He was offering me an endorsement, but he said, Lorin, I had never met you, but I met you at a meeting. He says, and you took the time to walk up to me, say hi to me, and like nobody else exists. Like I mattered to you in that moment. I could tell it wasn't, you just took the time. Nobody else, it blocked out. You were focused on me and what I was saying to you. You weren't distracted by other things. So it's really, it has to be a two-way relationship. I even look at it more, I want it to be a one-way the other way.
Sure.
Right? It's give and take, right? But it has to be, sometimes people want it, or a one-way relationship. They want everybody to give one way. For me, it's, you have to give. You have to be willing to go both ways in a relationship. But it's really just, at the end of the day, it's just listening. I think people don't feel heard these days more than ever. I think it's trying. I get sick of people that think they have all the answers, that think they know. And there's just, if we sat down and listened to other people and understood other people, what they were going through, we don't all live the same situation. We're all living our lives in our own way. We all have different life experiences that form our value system, form our, our perception of life. And I want to understand everybody's perception on this, right? I want to understand that. I've changed my perceptions on divorce. I remember thinking, man, they went through a divorce. Like, man, that's not good, right? It must be wrong. Something must be wrong with them. And so having been through it, it's like, I'll never judge somebody else again in that or other similar situation. But it's just listening and understanding, and you've got to get rid of the judgment. You have to get rid of judgment.
I love what you're talking about here, because it's what you're saying is part of the reason why I wanted our podcast to be called what it is, the idea of yes and. Because when you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, if you will be curious to hear what their perspective is, part of that's validating that perspective to say, like, yes, I hear you, right? Not saying, no, I disagree. Or yes, but, where you're, we call it the butt sweep, right? Where you're really sweeping away what they said and giving your perspective. But it's the yes, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I understand what your perspective is. And here's my perspective. Here's something that might give a little more color to the situation. Or also, here's something that could build for the future, help to build this relationship. And so, I think as we stay curious and are willing to listen to people, it really does help build those relationships. But it's also taking the time. Like you said, it's taking the time to talk to somebody and really listen, ask really good questions that are curious questions to try to understand them better. And that's not always easy for people. I think sometimes it's easy just to be lazy, Hey, how's the weather? How's your week? That's kind of what we all revert to, and it's because it's easier and it's comfortable. But really willing to find out and ask deeper questions can really help to build those relationships. And you and I both know Dr. Godfrey, right? Superintendent for Jordan School District. And we've had the privilege the last couple of weeks of giving out these Educator of the Year awards to schools in the Jordan School District. And one of the things that struck me about Dr. Godfrey, who I've known since junior high school, I had him as a teacher, is his ability to do that. Every time he's given an award, he'll have done his homework, he knows why the person's getting the award, and he knows what the nominee said about them. And so when he's talking to them, he mentions it every time.
Yes.
And then when he sits and talks with them after all the pomp and circumstance, you can see that he's connecting with that person. And he's done the same thing with me. Again, I had him as a teacher 30 years ago, right? It was a long time ago. And every time I've interacted with him, he acts like we've stayed in close touch since then, that he makes me feel seen.
Right.
And it's such a gift and it's such a skill. And it's the same thing of why you've been successful as a mayor, because of that ability in those moments to connect and have somebody feel like you really care about them. Before we jump back in, can I ask you a quick favor? If you're enjoying the journey so far, will you like, rate, and subscribe to our show? It helps us reach more people like you. We can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. So when we jump back to this idea of the Lion King and some lessons there, maybe set the stage for us, and I want to hear more about the lessons that you learned from Lion King. So even though probably most people listening will have seen Lion King, set the overarching kind of 30,000-foot view of the storyline, and then I want to hear more about the lessons that you learned from specifically Mufasa and Lion King.
Right. So for me, when I watched, and I went back, it was, for me, it's not even the whole, I loved Lion King was one of my first, I remember that was one of the first Disney movies I saw,
early 90s.
In the theater, loved it, right? But Mufasa's always, there were a few scenes I'd always seen in some quotes from Mufasa over the years, right, in leadership trainings or whatever, right? So just the way that Mufasa, I remember the first impact was as a dad, right? It was how he, when Simba and Nala, take off and leave go to the boneyard or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
The elephant graveyard.
graveyard, yes. And, probably on the verge of dying, right? Of being, and so he shows up, and the way he handles that, sends Nala home, and, and then, I'm disappointed, the typical, I'm disappointed, but then he took a responsibility, and that happening as well, letting that happen. And then immediately, you could tell he was disappointed, but it wasn't this angry. It wasn't this, it was just that leadership of, I'm disappointed, son. But then instantly they started rolling around and playing around again, right? And I remember my dad being that way. And my dad was just so, I never felt punished by my parents. It was, that disappointed, but you can do better type of thing. And that's led into others, all sorts of other things, just about his leadership role, how it was about, I think too many times a leader wants to get to the top and be the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Right. I think Mufasa saw the bigger picture, and his whole goal was to elevate everybody around him and create this, bring people along. It wasn't to, we've said, dictate. It wasn't to tell people. It was to bring everybody along together and bring that whole kingdom together, elevate it all together. And that's just some of those things with Mufasa. Just I've looked back, and even I've watched it a few more times getting ready for this. I've learned more and more from those situations. Just his leadership and quiet, just powerful leadership, but quiet and just dignity and respect, and just such a great movie about leadership, honestly.
Yeah, and I think we see in there that he's showing the respect to the other animals in the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously that's the example for us is like when we have other people we interact with, other people in our organization, our neighbors, the people around us, showing them that respect and understanding the role they play and whatever it is we're doing is so key, because then we understand the value that they're bringing. Mm-hmm. Especially when we think about like in an organization. If somebody is in an organization, if we understand the greater purpose, if there's mission clarity, right, for the organization, and then we see the role that people are playing in that mission, the overall mission, boy, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, I really value that person because I know the role they're playing in the organization. Like that's not something that I can do. I don't have that skill. That's not me. I can play my role here, but I want to be supportive of what they're doing over there and what this other person's doing in this other place over here. And in a city, I think that's also vitally important because, like you talked about, there's so many different things that go into running a city. Like it's crazy how many different things there are. And you have to interact with so many different roles, I'm sure. What have you learned from that, where you've taken these lessons from your past and from different things you've learned from, sounds like your dad and other things? How has that helped you in building the quality relationships with the different, like even people that are like working in the city and that need to be able to function and have confidence in what they're doing, even if they've got problems and stuff? Tell me more about the lessons you've learned as you started doing that more.
Well, one of the first things I did when I took office was we were almost all new at the time. We had a new management had just come in, new city management had just come in. We had a pretty new council at the time, only a couple of holdovers, so we had some new members on council. So really, I recognized that we needed people around us as a city. We couldn't, all the things we were getting hit up about, more roads, more infrastructure, bus routes in the city, just all the things I recognized that, the city can't provide buses. That has to be UTA, right? So I need those relationships with UTA. The state has funding sources. I needed those relationships with our legislators, with our partners, right? So it instantly became this outreach to understanding where the partners were. And I saw other leaders around, and of course I won't say names, but I saw other leaders around that would, go into some of these meetings and super critical of what they were doing and how they weren't doing enough, right? And it just, these were just people too, just doing their best with, there's limited resources, there's limited money, there's limited time from all of us, from all these partners around us. And they're just humans too. They make mistakes and do it. So it became this listening, understanding where we could have good partners. And for me, it was just about collaboration. It just had to be about understanding where they were coming from, what their role could be. And I watched from 4 years ago when Herriman wasn't truly, and this wasn't a criticism to anybody before me, but we weren't really at the table. Like Herriman wasn't in many discussions as far as at the state level or the county level. We weren't getting a lot of outside funding. Our staff was amazing doing what they could, but for 4 years before me, we had lacked a leader at the top. It was kind of this, everybody was doing the best they could, but there was this vacuum of leadership in the city. And so really, my biggest accomplishment, I feel, is 4 years later, we are at the table in almost everything, right? And we don't get everything we need out in Herriman. We don't get everything we want. We don't agree with everything that happens at the state level or at the county level. But we're in a much better place in those discussions to bring resources to our community. Yeah. That kind of stuff doesn't get seen by residents.
Sure.
And I don't expect it to. I don't care, right? I really don't. That's not what I'm doing it for. But Herriman's now a player in the state. We're the 14th biggest city in the state, which is crazy to me that little Herriman from when I moved out there is now a player. But now we're looked at, we're respected in all the discussions.
Well, I think one thing that's emblematic, and it's not the only accomplishment by any stretch. I actually just think it's emblematic of being at the table, which is the Trader Joe's you got.
Yes.
Which sounds silly, but like it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Every city wanted that. Like what city doesn't want Trader Joe's?
Right.
Everyone does.
Right.
And because of what you guys are building there, you were a player at the table where that was a possibility, and you guys were able to land it. And that doesn't happen, I don't think, if all those other things aren't happening. If you're not building those relationships across the board to bring to that community the things that they want and that they need to help those the people in that community thrive.
Yeah, everybody, looks back at how did you get Trader Joe's? Like honestly, I did not talk to Trader Joe's one time. Like I didn't.
Sure.
I never had a conversation with them. Like you said, we had just created an environment in Herriman where everybody wants to be in Herriman. We see it with the growth. Everybody loves it out there for the most part. We're on track with the businesses. We've been hyper-focused on supporting our local businesses and supporting that. And I think people noticed. I think that's what drove Target and Trader Joe's to come. Yeah. They saw that excitement going on in our community. And
for sure.
Absolutely. I hope that played a role in them landing in our city.
Yeah. It just keeps coming back to me as we're continuing to talk. It's just so much like, for me, the difference between the leadership of Mufasa versus Scar, right? Mufasa, in helping the circle of life work well, is what helps all facets of their community function correctly, right? Where everybody's thriving, the circle of life's working. Same thing for Herriman. Whereas you look at Scar, and once he becomes a leader, like it all dies off, like it's terrible, it's all dark, right? There's this dominating thing. People are not valued for their roles. And it's this really bleak thing, but it's not just some story. That actually happens. In real life, when you have leaders that just operate without relationships, that they just want to dominate, they don't value the other component parts to what makes it work, it will eventually die off. And it's very short-sighted, and it might feel good to somebody because they've got power and they can exert that power. And we have this kind of natural man inside us, like, oh, I'm powerful. When in reality, it's the humility of Mufasa. It's the humility of leaders like you, like Dr. Godfrey, that really help those relationships get built, that really help the overall entity function the way that it needs to through the collaboration, the leadership. One more quote I want to read to you. I want to get your take on it.
Yes, love it.
So I think for me, one of the most famous quotes in this is actually after Mufasa's dead. After Simba goes through his exploration, right? Hakuna Matata, right? No worries. And then suddenly Rafiki appears and leads him to the water where he has this interaction with Mufasa's ghost. And then he looks up in the sky and Mufasa's ghost says, Simba, you have forgotten me. No, how could I? You've forgotten who you are and so have forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life. How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be. Remember who you are. You are my son and the one true king. Remember who you are. Like it's just such a good line. Give me your take on that.
Oh my gosh, right? That's a tough one because I don't even go to my leadership role in the city in that space. I go back to, even going, and maybe this isn't where you were going with this, but I look back and where, I remember after going through my divorce and then. Even when I did the stay-at-home dad thing, I thought, well, this is I've plateaued. I've hit, this is going to be my life, right? And again, nothing wrong with it, right? Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But it was this acceptance that, okay, life wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And we're still happy. Like, we're still happy, very fortunate, very, blessed in every way, materially, everything. So there was no want or need there, but it was just this kind of acceptance. And then as I've grown into this role and seen what we can do as a city, like we can do, like, there's something more. Like, I've realized this without going through that, I don't think I'm where I am today.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think, and now I'm still, every day I have to look around, and I look around and think, we're onto something here. We are onto something. Personally, I feel like I'm onto something. Our council's onto something. Our staff is onto something. Just every day is a win around our city right now, just constantly full of wins right now. And we've got this momentum and this, like, we're seeing ourselves in that reflection right now, right? Where Herriman the people out there have always been amazing and, resourceful and just desire to serve. And now we're all recognizing it as a community. We're all realizing this. And so it's just that realization that, man, we can do this. I can do this, right? I still have those days. There's still those social media comments.
Oh, sure.
Yesterday, I had one just even yesterday. I got my first gubernatorial appointment from the governor. Reached out and appointed me to a statewide board. That's my first for me, kind of a big deal for me.
Yeah. What board is that?
It's called the Air Quality Board.
Okay.
So it's kind of again, some people think that, it's for me, it's not a partisan thing. To me, I think we look around and we know that we need to improve our air around here. But for some
Especially
reason,
in the wintertime, our air quality is bad in this county.
Right. But I've had pushback about, taking this, liberal role, right? And it's just, anyways. So I had somebody pipe up. I did an announcement about it, and somebody replied back yesterday, said, your voice is polluting the air. Why don't you just shut the hell up, right? And I'm like,
oh, goodness.
So those are still the moments I kind of shudder and think, well, maybe I should. But then I have to step back and think, nope, I've used my voice for too much good. Yeah. I've used my skills for too much good. I can't stop.
Yeah.
So
I think that's exactly right. I think there's a couple of ways to look at this. I love your take on that. And I wanted to get your take, not going and having any kind of preconceived notions. I wanted to hear what you had to say from it. And I love what you're saying. I mean, part of it is the journey we all face, much like Simba, where sometimes we do forget who we are. Mm-hmm. But we also then start to realize how those experiences shape us. I would submit that your experiences from being divorced and co-parenting, your experiences from having a career and having it really take off, and then stepping aside and being a stay-at-home dad, right, and then stepping into a role, you understand more members of your community than someone who had just stayed married the entire time, never was a stay-at-home dad, never had those experiences, who wouldn't necessarily be able to relate to all the people that you can because of experiences. It doesn't mean that we wish a divorce on anybody, right? I say that all the time. I got divorced, right? It was hard. As a divorce attorney, am I a better divorce attorney because I went through a divorce? I actually am.
Absolutely.
I understand it better. I understand what people are going through better. And so you have these experiences where now you can understand your community and how all the things in your community affect the different people in their roles. We're in Utah. There's still lots of stay-at-home moms.
Absolutely.
Right? It's still a thing. And so you understanding what that was like, what it's like to set aside a career where you could have been going for a while there, and the emotions you went through, and what it's like to be a stay-at-home parent, I think really helps to inform and make you a better leader. And so remembering who you are at the core of I've had these experiences and I was able to learn from these experiences, that's part of it. Mm-hmm. The other component that I love here too is also looking at it from the perspective of Mufasa in guiding his son to that. And one time we are privileged to have a leadership position or leadership role, how are we choosing to guide somebody? And can we remind them about their value? Because you talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. You talked about that you just have this small role. People need to be able to do their roles in the city. And can we elevate them to remind them of what their true worth is, to remind them of what the overall mission we're trying to accomplish so that they can feel empowered to step in to their best self. I think is huge. Mm-hmm. And it's a great example of both sides of that, both Mufasa and Simba, and what that together can look like and how that can impact people.
I love that.
Okay, so now let's take you to a fun section.
Okay.
We're going to do a quick, what we call this or that. Okay. So, your opinion might be controversial, and you're going to have to defend it if it is. Okay. So here we go.
Okay.
Simba or Mufasa?
I'm Mufasa.
Yeah, I figured.
Yes.
Right at the beginning of this conversation, I was like, okay, this is probably a softball for him because it's going to be Mufasa.
Right.
Okay, Scar or Hades
Oh my god.
from Hercules?
Oh, man. Scar.
Scar's
I
a
don't
good
know.
one. He's a good villain.
He is.
He's tricky. He's conniving. His song, Be Prepared, is also like a pretty classic Disney villain song.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
And just, I mean, so, yeah. Anyway, he steals the show in a lot of ways. Sometimes
yeah.
that whole middle section of that movie. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And some great humor that's laced into it as well,
Absolutely.
for sure. Okay, I don't know if you're a big Disneyland guy or not, but I threw this question in here. We're going to say Disneyland or California Adventure?
Oh, man. You know, it's changed I think Disneyland is great for the youngers, but then
Yes.
as they became teenagers, California Adventure was, because it was the classics over in Disneyland. Now it's Midway Mania and, and Incredicoaster, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
So it changed, right?
It
It's
totally does.
morphed over the years. So
Yeah, it's totally true. I've had that same experience. I've still got a little. She's still 5. So there's definitely things in Disneyland we still want to do for her. But the rest of the kids, it's Disney California Adventure for sure. Like the Spider-Man ride is amazing. The Guardians of the Galaxy ride is incredible. And we have a ton of fun over Disney California Adventure.
Soarin', I could do
Soarin'
Soarin'.
is so
I could
good.
ride that every.
And apparently, the big news is they're going to do an adjustment for the 250th celebration of America, and there's going to be a new Soarin' over America, which I'm stoked to see.
And I'm disappointed because we're going to California for spring break in a few weeks.
Oh, you are,
And we're not doing Disney.
You're
We're
not.
doing- my little guy wants to do Universal, so where I feel like I'm going to
Okay.
be cheating on Disney by being at Universal. But this opportunity to see this. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Does he like Harry
later in the
Potter?
year, that's why he wants to go. Harry
I
Potter
mean-
and Super Mario.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? That Super Mario Land is great. Have you been there yet?
Not
to
yet.
It? We went like a month after it opened, so there was still some kinks, and yet it was phenomenal. They actually did a great job with it. And then have you been to the Harry Potter area
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
Universal?
Yep.
The butterbeer there?
Unreal.
Get out of town.
Unreal.
It's so good.
Yes.
And like it's not, I've had it in some other places and it's not the same. We went to the, what is it? The Cursed Child, the play in New York City.
Uh-huh.
And so they have butterbeer they serve there in a bottle. Oh, no. Like, it was terrible.
Not the same.
Horrible. Give me that butterbeer at Universal. That was amazing.
Something about those places.
And they have the regular and the frozen version, right? Like the slushy
ice-
version.
yes.
Ooh.
So
And
good.
you got me like wanting
Can't
to go to
wait.
Universal now.
Can't wait.
Love that. Okay, zoo or aquarium?
Oh, man. Depends on the time of year.
Totally true.
Like aquarium's a winter thing for us, and
Yeah,
then the zoo's
that's
the
fair.
summer thing.
Yeah.
So-
Have you been to the new section of the aquarium here that they
Yes.
just opened up?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Oh, man. It's really cool.
Fun area.
It is fun. I'm still impressed that with this addition they did, 5th largest aquarium in the United States in a landlocked state in
Yes.
Utah. It's like, are you serious? This is amazing.
And I remember where they started in that
Oh, yeah.
old grocery store
Yeah.
over in Sandy.
Well, and in fact, where they actually started was out of the back of his van.
Oh, I heard that. I've heard that story.
Out of the
actually.
back of his van, he just was passionate about taking animals to students and would drive all over the state doing it. And then that's like, it just blows my mind that that's where it came. Talk about having
amazing.
like a mission clarity, right? And being able to build from there. He's a great leader.
Yep.
Beach or forest?
Oh, beach.
I love the beach.
Beach.
Love me a beach. Okay, now
Yes.
this next question is based off of our experience a couple of days ago. So I threw this one in,
Okay.
also knowing that you speak Spanish. Tacos or enchiladas?
Oh, enchiladas. I'm an
Okay, let's go.
enchilada guy. Cover it in cheese and enchilada sauce. And
yeah.
I'm a picky eater in some way, so I don't do lettuce and tomato. I can do lettuce and tomato separate.
Okay.
But not on a burger, not on a taco. So my taco is
Interesting.
just a plain.
Yeah, not
It's just a
nearly as
hard
good.
shell, and
Yeah.
So my enchilada,
Okay, because then you have to worry about that.
Yes.
Yeah, and you just got to
give
drench
me a
in
cheese
a
or a
bunch of
ground beef
goodness.
enchilada. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The enchilada is what I'm gonna have for lunch today. I can already tell.
I love it.
Okay, here's our rapid fire. Okay, so first thing that comes to mind.
'Kay.
Okay. Favorite Disney movie?
Mighty Ducks.
Oh, such a good one.
Yes.
Oh, and when we were growing up, Mighty Ducks was incredible.
All we talked
Like
about.
I wanted to play hockey.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, let me do the flying V. I want to be on that. I want to be scoring that goal, right? Oh,
Yep.
great movie.
Yep.
Favorite Disney song?
Oh my gosh. Hakuna Matata's up there, honestly.
It's a good one.
But man, there's
so
some from
singable.
Aladdin. some Aladdin songs, and then Pocahontas, the Color of the Wind.
Okay.
I heard that the other day again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It resonated the other day.
It's a very good
It
song.
was about a lot going on. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
great songs. Favorite Disney princess?
Oh my gosh. Boy. Jasmine.
Jasmine's great.
Jasmine.
Look, when we were growing up, Aladdin and Jasmine, dude, they were cool, and she was cute, right? I'm gonna admit it. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, Jasmine.
Yes, and I had a sister who was 12 years younger than me to the day. And what I remember is she wanted all the princess. So I remember that was the first one I bought her. It was the little figurine.
Oh, that's cute.
That was the first one I bought her. So that will always
absolutely
be something.
Have a special place for sure. It's the nostalgia, right? Favorite Disney hero or heroine?
Oh my word. Whew. Man, these are good. I love Buzz Lightyear. I go to the Toy Story. That's another one of my. That was a different.
He's
Once
great.
Pixar came, that was a whole other. The Buzz Lightyear, Woody, probably actually Woody in that.
Okay,
Actually,
Woody.
more than Buzz. Oh,
Woody goes through a really good hero's journey. Mm-hmm. He really does, where he has to grow because he is the leader. He's the undisputed leader, and yet he has to grow to be able to appreciate what everybody else can contribute and how he can lead more effectively. Yeah,
how to
great
adapt.
one.
Yep,
and he does too, right?
Yep.
Okay, last two, and this is not Disney related. Favorite book?
Oh my word, favorite book. Honestly, it's Da Vinci Code. Like I go back.
Super.
I'm a
good
kind
book.
of a history that way. I like that kind of history, but with the mystery, I don't know. That book I've read several times. Love it.
Yeah, super good. Did you read Angels and Demons as well?
Love that book too.
So I had read Da Vinci Code and loved it and loved the movie. And then when I was driving back from law school in Waco, because I had to drive back when law school was done with all of our stuff. Technically, we got wise on the way back, which is we had an 18-wheeler take the stuff back, so we had to drive our car.
Right.
It was a long drive. And my ex-wife at the time, she did not love driving. And so I had to drive the whole way. And I put Angels and Demons on audio CD, and the drive was a breeze because I was so into it the whole drive. It's a long drive, but it made it go so much better because Dan Brown's a very good writer.
Such a good one.
You just get sucked right in that story, and then you just can't edge of your seat, can't wait to what's happening next. We'd stop for gas or something. I couldn't wait to get back in the car to keep listening. What's happening next? What happened next?
Yep.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and then last one, ultimate dinner guest, dead or alive?
Oh my word. I wasn't a big politics guy, but I always wanted to hear the perspective of, I don't know why, but John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
I look back and I wish it kills me, hard that he lost his life so young, right? I think he had so much, but I would love to have understood I love his early life. I love his story. I've always wanted to hear more about him and wish he would have been around more to tell more of his story.
Yeah, we went to Arlington Cemetery on a way back from a Disney cruise, wouldn't you know?
Right.
And we flew through D.C., but we had a layover about 10 hours. And so we took the kids, because they'd never been there, just to a few things in time we had. And one of them was Arlington Cemetery, where he's buried. And I was kind of explaining to them, this was the president we had, and he got killed in his office. And it was cool for my kids to be kind of be very respectful of what that was and all the other things that were there. We saw the tomb of the unknown soldier and the thing that they do there. It was just this really sobering experience, but also a great experience for my kids to have that surprisingly they really liked and appreciated. It was really good.
Yep.
Okay,
Love
so to kind of wrap up here, I mean, what I love about our conversation, Mayor, is just how I think you've really highlighted well the importance of building the relationships in a way that helps people feel heard and seen, that helps people feel validated, that you get really curious about what they've got going on and what their lives are like and what their experiences are like. And when you do that, that's where I think is the difference in being able to build relationships. People who are those networkers that we all kind of cringe at are people who are not curious. You know they want something from you.
Yep.
You know they're going to be a taker.
Yes. Yep.
And takers are tough. And the way that we can effectively build relationships is don't be a taker. Just, be curious. Want to look at the contributions that we're making, much like kind of Mufasa did, where he understood the circle of life. He understood how all the component parts work together, and then was able to effectively have conversations, where he still had to hold to a standard. Like with Simba, he had to hold a standard. Mm-hmm. They showed an increase in love and kindness afterwards,
right?
Which I think was really key.
Yep.
So if you were to give people 3 actionable takeaways based on some of the things we were talking about, 3 things that they could put into practice today or this week to build better relationships, to be able to have better influence in the positions they have, to have a greater sense of belonging? What would those three things be?
Love that. First one for me is have a conversation with somebody you don't agree with. Like just
That's
have
hard.
a conversation with, because it's hard. It's absolutely hard, but have that conversation and use your, I love your little intro, your yes and. Don't blow it off. Listen. Just try to understand what their perspective is, right? And that's, if you have one of those a week, honestly, I try to put myself in one of those situations once a week. So have those, sit down with somebody you don't necessarily agree with. 2 is just live outside yourself. Like you just have to live outside yourself, constantly serve. It goes back to my mission, right? I remember, when I was on the mission, and if you have a companion you don't agree with or struggle with, serve somebody. Just get outside yourself. If you're going through something hard, don't focus on yourself. Like I think it's easy when we're going through something hard. Don't focus on yourself. Serve. Get outside yourself and realize that somebody else is going through something probably even harder than you. And I think that puts it in perspective. So perspective. And then it's just being real. What's the word? There was a genuine. Being genuine is just, anybody can tell when you're not being genuine with them. I believe that. You got to be real. You got to be genuine. And if don't be fake, because people will see through that. You've got to be genuine when you're meeting with somebody, when you're talking to somebody, when they're bringing something up. Like they're coming from a place of their perspective. They're coming from a place that, we laugh that sometimes somebody's concerned about a pothole in their city. Like for us, we deal with those all day, every day. But for them, if it's in their neighborhood or right in front, that's a real issue for that person. That's their life every day. So you've got to be real with people, and you've got to just understand, like, that's their reality, and that's what you've got to try to help with their situation.
Fantastic. Oh, this has been such a great conversation, Mayor. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a lot going, and you're going to probably have a whole lot more today as you're doing
fantastic.
a
We
lot
could
of
talk
things
for hours, right?
and preparing things. But I really appreciate your perspective and what I've learned through the conversation today about how I can be more genuine in the relationships that I have and that I'm trying to build, and how I can try to connect better and really focusing on that person and letting that conversation when I am be really with them. Because I think it's really easy for me to sometimes get distracted with a lot of things that I got going, but just taking those moments to like really focus on those individuals and build those relationships and collaborate. So really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It's been fun.
As you lead this conversation, remember that yes, the past can hurt, and you can either run from it or you can learn from it. So here's to learning and finding joy in the journey. See you real soon.